I would like to request your attention for the signing of the cooperation agreement between the University Polytechnica of Bucharest and the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan in Romania, in the presence of His Excellency Mr. Bogdan Aurescu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Romania, and His Excellency Mr. Mahdum Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. On behalf of the University, Mr. Mihnea Costoiu, Rector. On behalf of the Embassy, His Excellency Mr. Zafar Iqbal, Ambassador. Bună dimineața, are loc semnarea acordului de cooperare dintre în prezența Excelenței sale domnului Bogdan Aurescu, Ministrul Afacerilor Externe al României, și a Excelenței sale domnului Maqdum Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Ministrul Afacerilor Externe al Republicii Islamice Pakistan. Din partea Universității, domnul Mihnea Costoiu, rector. Din partea ambasadei, domnul Zafar Iqbal, ambasador.
Gentlemen, now we have the joint press conference of the Foreign Affairs Minister, His Excellency Bogdan Aurescu. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now the joint press conference of the Foreign Affairs Minister, His Excellency Mr. Bogdan Aurescu, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Qureshi. After the statements of the two ministers, we will have a few minutes for a possible question. Your Excellency, Minister, you have the floor. Hello, thank you for your presence. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to receive today in Bucharest the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, His Excellency Mr. Mahmood Qureshi. Minister, welcome to Bucharest. We've had substantive consultation in an atmosphere that was particularly favorable and open for the further strengthening of our bilateral relations. The minister's visit to Romania is a moment of reference in our recent bilateral history and also a premiere in the last 20 years. After the last visit to Romania of a Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan took place in 1999. And there were no visits since then of the Romanian foreign ministers to Islamabad. We want to change this situation through these visits today, which triggers a new stage, more dynamic, more dense, more substantive in the relationships between Romania and Pakistan. The visit of the minister is a continuation of the contacts we had last year and of the conversation we had at the beginning of September and the meeting we had in New York in the margin of the UN General Assembly, and it opens thus an important chapter. This year we celebrate 58 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations, so it's a relationship with traditions, it's a very good one, but which today receives a new boost. The entire world looks carefully at the developments in the Indo-Pacific, and our country is no exception. It is a very good moment to relaunch this relationship on a modern basis that is visionary and adapted to the current trends and needs, including also from the perspective of increasing the resilience of our countries. I discussed today with my counterpart about the most effective ways to enhance bilateral relations, both in terms of political dialogue and also economic and sectoral one, and we want to set a calendar of sectoral meetings in the fields of interest for the two countries, also in the fields of economics. We've discussed about the developing of sectoral relations in the fields like education, culture, labor, also support in various international organizations. I want to assure the Minister that Romania is fully committed to developing bilateral ties with the Islamic Republic of Pakistan in all these sectors and not only. We encourage people-to-people contacts, enhanced contacts, also a better understanding between the two societies and cultures. And you've just witnessed the signing of the cooperation agreement between the Polytechnical University of Bucharest and the embassy representing the University of Islamabad. I thank the Minister for the vital support offered to Romania for the repatriation of the 7 Romanian citizens that were brought from Afghanistan. We also citizens of the allies that were repatriated by the Romanian authorities, and the 156 Afghans at risk. And this happened in August and September 2021. As for the trade, which last year was of almost $100 million for the first 10 months, which meant more than almost 50% more than in the previous year, we agreed to step up our efforts to reach the existing potential, which is much higher than what we see today. We agreed to talk about an enhanced contact between the businessmen in our countries and to revive the business councils that exist since 2011. We talked about the economic forums that we can organize, about the participation to exhibitions and other economic events. We also agreed to resume the works of the Joint Economic Commission by identifying new projects and by organizing consultations in this field in order to stimulate even more the economic cooperation between Romania and Pakistan. We've talked about the collaboration in strategic fields like defense industry, and I also salute the agreement that was signed today between the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Romania and the Association of Chambers and Commerce and Industry of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, which will enhance the relationship between the businessmen in the two countries. We also talked about joint steps in order to expand the bilateral legal framework in the field of economics and education, where we consider additional scholarships for the students from Pakistan. We talk about our efforts to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, in the next hours, we will continue to talk about the regional dynamics in order to have a better understanding of the priorities of each of us in the regions we are, and to adjust our own values to the recent developments in Afghanistan and the Indo-Pacific region. We took this opportunity to reiterate Romania's appreciation for the role of Pakistan at regional level, and I highlighted Romania's interest to have a stable and peaceful neighborhood of Pakistan. Also, we'll continue our exchange of opinions in terms of the situation of Afghanistan, where we need an international community approach of the EU, of the Afghanistan neighbors, in order to manage the negative effects of the recent developments and also to promote human rights. We've also talked about the security dynamics in the vicinity of the Black Sea, and I presented the position of Romania with regards to this situation. As you know, there are important developments this week. I reiterated Romania's first support for the development of the relationship between the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the EU, including also by maintaining and capitalizing on the EU's generalized scheme for Prophecies Plus for Pakistan. And I also mentioned that during the Romanian presidency in 2019, the EU-Pakistan Strategic Engagement Plan was adopted. We will also continue to discuss in our interaction after this press conference also about the Indo-Pacific region, about Romania's priorities under the strategy, where we want to come with a solid expertise in fields where Romania has this possibility, fields like cybersecurity, the law of the sea, prevention of natural disasters. In the coming years, we want to promote a closer relationship between our states, which reflects the bilateral potential, which is very high, and also stimulates multilateral dialogue in line with the current trends at international level. Because strengthening and expanding ties with like-minded partners around the world, like the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, is a current priority of the Romanian diplomacy. Minister, thank you once again for your visit to Romania, which is actually the first visit I welcome this year from a foreign counterpart. And I want to thank you for very extremely open and friendly atmosphere of the discussions we had. You have the floor, Minister.
Thank you, Foreign Minister. Thank you for your remarks, and thank you for receiving me at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a very comprehensive discussion and overview of our bilateral relations. As the Foreign Minister mentioned, we've had a very good conversation on where we stand and what we need to do in the years ahead. As you mentioned, that 58 years of diplomatic relations, excellent relations. Politically, we are very comfortable. As the Minister mentioned, that we have been supporting each other at multilateral forums, and thank you for reiterating support to some of our candidatures that I raised in our meeting. They will be very, very helpful and very useful. Having said that, I want to acknowledge that despite excellent bilateral relations in the last 58 years and goodwill for each other, our exchanges have been infrequent. And the fact that I'm here today, I'm here with a very determined view to initiate a new era in our bilateral relations. I see a lot of promise, I see a lot of opportunity in the years ahead, and this meeting, this bilateral visit, in my view, will set the tone for a new era of our bilateral relations. And thank you for agreeing to hold the bilateral political consultations. The last round was held in 2017. And ever since then, we haven't had a round of bilateral political consultations. So thank you for agreeing for the next round in the next few months of 2022. The Minister mentioned that I am the first foreign minister that he has received in 2022. I hope I bring you good luck for other very successful and fruitful visits in the year ahead. We've had discussions on how to promote our economic relations. And as the Minister mentioned, that in the last fiscal year, our bilateral trade increased despite of the COVID challenges, by 50.6%. But this is nowhere near the potential that exists between us bilaterally and within the context of the European Union. Pakistan is an important trader with the European Union. We have an important relationship with the European Union, and you are an important member of the European Union. We've had this advantageous position that the Europeans have been very magnanimous in giving us the GSP Plus facility. And thank you for your continued support vis-a-vis the GSP Plus scheme that is under review. And Pakistan feels that this has been mutually beneficial for Pakistan and the European Union, and continued support on that would be mutually helpful, and it will be helpful for the European Union. And the fact that today we have been able to sign an agreement between the chambers that will facilitate new openings for B2B contacts at the corporate level in the private sector. The private sector is and will be the driving force between our economic relations. And I shared with the Foreign Minister the opportunities Romanians have in not just promoting bilateral trade with Pakistan, by making Pakistan a hub of re-export into Central Asia and new markets that are now opening up for the world. And Pakistan, through this economic corridor that we are developing with China, the economic corridor that connects the western part of China with Gwadar, opens up many landlocked countries of Central Asia, Afghanistan included. And you have spent years, and your troops have spent time in Afghanistan, so you know the challenges of Afghanistan. Your Prime Minister has served as a battalion commander in Afghanistan, so and has been, to the border areas of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and understands how challenging the situation has been, and also understands the opportunities that will accrue when there's peace and stability within Afghanistan. Obviously, we will discuss at lunch the regional situation, the Afghan situation. Obviously, the JCPO negotiations with Iran are important to the European Union. I am aware of that. And our relations with China and the role of China, the developing economy of China, and the competitive environment that is growing also is of interest and concern to Pakistan and the European Union. How do we ease the growing tensions, and how do we avoid slipping into the sort of the Cold War tensions that we've all experienced? I will also share with the Foreign Minister later. I am aware of the fact that the Romanians have been very sensitive about human rights, and rightly so. I would also want to share with the Foreign Minister and with the Romanian people the delicate human rights situation on the eastern side of Pakistan, which is, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. That has been under debate in the European Union. Many members of the European Parliament have spoken about it and are concerned, and we will talk about it. I'm also very happy to acknowledge the fact that we've just signed an agreement linking educational institutions and benefiting from the excellent educational environment that exists in Romania. Pakistani students will certainly benefit from this agreement that we have signed with the Polytechnic in Bucharest, scholarships that are being offered, the vocational skill development that we will get through your excellent institution, one of the best in Europe, will be of great value to Pakistan, and I'm delighted to have been part of it. I'm also, I want to acknowledge the excellent handling of the COVID situation by Romania. We are going through our fifth wave, so are you. But despite that challenging situation, I want to thank you, sir, and the people of Romania on behalf of the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan for being very generous in gifting, 500,000 doses of the coronavirus virus. Our inoculation program is quite advanced. We have inoculated something like 70 million people. We are a large population of 220 people, an equally large market for trade and investments. Thank you for doing that. I think in the days ahead, there are great opportunities for Pakistan and Romania to develop a better understanding. We want to exploit the potential and the opportunities that we have been overlooking. This is the right time. This is the right time to move ahead. And inshallah, hopefully, this trip and this visit will set the tone for a better understanding between our two countries. Thank you for the invitation. And I also want to invite you to visit Pakistan. Once we've had the bilateral political consultations and we've reviewed where our bilateral relations stand, I would want you to come and visit Islamabad and see how do we move forward. Thank you.
Domnilor miniștri, vă mulțumim pentru declarații. Așa cum menționam la început, avem câteva minute și pentru întrebări. Colegele mele vă vor ajuta.
Ministers, as we said, we have some minutes for questions, so please stand and indicate the person you are asking the question to. Iulian Enescu, Ecopolitics. First of all, Minister, I'm sorry for the losses in your country in the recent days when dozens of people have died after a snowstorm, including children, from what I've heard. So our sincere condolences. The first question for the Pakistani minister, but also for the Romanian minister. If this is the first visit after 20 years of a foreign affairs minister, and I mentioned the visit of Nadem Raza, the general, last year, with the Ministry of Defense, which is now the current Prime Minister. So when do we expect a visit of the President of Pakistan or of the Prime Minister of Pakistan to Romania? And for Mr. Aurescu, if you agreed, from what I understand, you already been invited to Pakistan, but have you decided on an exact date in the near future, given that the last visit of president level was in 95 and the level of prime minister was in 95. So if it's possible, when could we have visits at these levels? Thank you, and I will have a second question after the answers.
Well, thank you for condoling with me on the tragic loss of life that we've had in the last few days because of the exceptional snowfall that we've had in our resort in Murray. You rightly pointed out that despite excellent relations, our frequency of interaction has been somewhat limited. And in recognition of that, I'm here in Bucharest and as I said earlier on, want to lay the foundations of a new era of our bilateral relations. We've had good discussions. We've agreed to have a bilateral political consultation in the next few months. And building on that, I've invited the foreign minister to visit Islamabad, to visit Pakistan, and obviously this will set the tone and create that enabling environment that is required for a summit-level visit of the Prime Minister or the President of Pakistan to Bucharest. One is conscious of that. One sees potential in developing a better understanding between the two countries. Economic understanding, we are laying the foundations of a better economic understanding. The agreement that we've signed between the chambers, the fact that we've agreed to revive the Joint Commission, the Joint Economic Commission, is setting the tone for that relationship that you would like to see develop between Romania and Pakistan. This visit, I think, will be the stepping stone for that.
Nu pot decât să fiu complet de acord cu
I can only fully agree with what the minister has said. Actually, even since last year, actually envisaged since 2019, and I requested my colleagues from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs review of the status of our relationship with the important partners in various regions of the globe. And as I said, the COVID-19 pandemic has several effects, and one of them was the awareness of the importance of the strategic resilience of Romania and the need to strengthen the relationship with partners that are like-minded, that is, those that have the same values as Romania and with whom we can have closer cooperation or relationships in such a way that we can have additional benefits in a more complicated context. So this is why last year we initiated, well, we had a phone call in September, then we agreed and we had a very good meeting in New York, and with that opportunity we set this visit that takes place today in Bucharest, and I'm very happy that this happened. So practically we are starting a new chapter in our bilateral relationship, a chapter of close relations at political level, but also when it comes to economics and investments. And we want to take it step by step, but in an accelerated way, in developing the bilateral dynamics. This is why we agreed on the one hand to have consultation at the minister level, then I will visit the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and I want to thank my colleague for his invitation, and I'm happy to accept it. Also today we agreed to create a plan of bilateral contacts between the Romanian and Pakistani ministries of common interest, and we will implement this contact plan, and also with the help of our diplomatic missions in Bucharest and Islamabad. And as the minister said, this is the cornerstone based on which we will have contacts at a higher level, as you've also said. Minister Aurescu, given this data that you've presented at the beginning of the press conference of the trade that is up of 100 million and a 50% increase, and more than that, given that Pakistan is the 5th country in terms of population with more than 200 million people, do you think that Nicolae Goia can found a bureau, an office for economic promotion given that this is up to the Ministry of Tourism and Entrepreneurship, but you are the ones that implement this strategy, so will you have a discussion with the Minister on this topic? I think we need a wider assessment of Romania's economic representation. As it is said in the chapter for foreign policy of the government program of this government, we have the objective of reviewing and modernizing external representation of Romania in the economic sector. So for sure we will have a discussion like that, and we will be able to have a proper economic representation in areas of interest for us, like Pakistan. If there are any other questions.
Can I just add to what the Foreign Minister said? I'd just like to add by saying that I have had, besides this meeting with the Foreign Minister, I've had two very good meetings. One with the Minister of Economy and with the Prime Minister. The meeting with the Prime Minister was very engaging, very encouraging, and very promising. The interest that he showed and the detail he had, for a futuristic approach towards Pakistan was very, very encouraging. So I am going back from Bucharest with a lot of hope for a very good relationship in the years ahead.
Bună ziua, Andreea Popa, Digi24.
Andreea Popa, Digi24. Minister Aurescu, the US and Russia are starting negotiation regarding the crisis at the Ukraine border. We also see in Brussels discussions about the Secretary General of NATO and Minister of Ukraine. I want to know the position of Romania in terms of the position of Russia to bring military equipment and task forces on the Ukrainian border. And what could be the results of these negotiations given the conditions imposed by Russia? Thank you very much for the question. The position of Romania has been expressed several times in terms of this very important topic. The most recently was with the extraordinary union of the NATO ministers that I attended on Friday, January 7th. A reunion as I said, that time was dedicated to the preparation of the meetings this week. It is a very relevant week in terms of finding a solution for the crisis that is taking place close to Ukraine and in the Black Sea region, because as we can see today, there is a strategic dialogue meeting between Russia and the US in Geneva. Then we have the NATO Council and Russia meeting, and our meeting was especially dedicated to the interaction on the 12th of January. On the 13th of January in OSCE in Vienna, there will be another discussion dedicated to the same file, the competencies of this organization. And today, as you said, and as we agreed within NATO, there is a preparatory meeting with Ukraine. So we have the foreign minister of Ukraine. And we're preparing also the meetings this week, especially the one on the 12th of January. As I presented the position of Romania on Friday, at the NATO minister meeting, there is a legitimate concern of the allies and also of Romania when it comes to this movement of Russian troops close to Ukraine in the Black Sea region, which is substantial and not provoked and unjustified. We also see a series of conditions that have been imposed by Russia, which tend to change the parameters of the European security architecture. We are open to dialogue, and this is the position I had and my colleagues had in the Friday meeting, because dialogue is part of a dual-track approach that NATO has when it comes to Russia. It is an approach that encourages dialogue, and in terms of Romania, as I've said during that meeting, we support this dialogue, but at the same time we have to keep in mind that this dialogue has to rely on a set of firm and credible measures of deterrence. In the same framework, I said that dialogue should take place without affecting principles and values and commitments of the alliance. There are certain proposals of the Russian Federation that are very hard to be accepted or unacceptable for the allies. But what is most important is for the dialogue to take place, and it should take place by presenting all the arguments of all sides, and the objective of this dialogue that is taking place in several stages and on various components should be the de-escalation of the security situation. We need to have a practical and real one, and on the other hand, we need to stop using threats of using force, because once again this is unacceptable when it comes to the legal framework at international level and the standards and norms for this. The openness to dialogue of NATO was always there. Compared to the Russian Federation, we are happy that the Russian Federation is coming to the table for a dialogue, and I underline this nuance. It is a dialogue and not a negotiation. It is a dialogue through which we are trying to clarify the positions of the sides and also to obtain this de-escalation. As I underlined during the meeting on Friday, the North Atlantic Alliance has a great responsibility in preserving the European security architecture that exists now. And in the same logic, we need to have a close coordination with the EU, which in its turn has a special responsibility when it comes to the relationship with Russia and with the partners in the eastern neighborhood. Also, during the NATO ministerial meeting, my colleagues and I underlined the importance of increasing the resilience of the partners and the support that NATO and allies should grant to the NATO partners in order to strengthen this resilience in face of the challenges they have. And we also underline the importance of continuing the open door policies, that is expanding the alliance, and also the support for the sovereignty and integrity of Ukraine. So this is, in brief, the set of elements that represents the position I presented Friday in this meeting, and which is actually to a great extent the position of the other allied foreign ministers. During the informal meeting on Friday, I was able to see a general consensus of the allied foreign ministers, of course with various nonsense and completing each other, in building this framework that we now use for the discussions with the Russian Federation today, Wednesday, and then Thursday, in the formats that I've mentioned. Thank you, Minister. Are there any other questions? It seems not. So, Ministers, thank you very much for your statements. Ladies and gentlemen, the press conference ends here. Thank you for your presence. Have a lovely day.